I now reconvene the regular council meeting for Monday, May 25th, 2026. Before we get underway, we'd like to acknowledge this council meeting is being held on the homeland of the Tanaka people. We have one additional item for consideration on tonight's agenda regarding the land donation from the city to the Rotary Club of Cranbrook. Staff require council consideration to grant the Rotary Club approval to undertake works for the proposed Rotary Village project. Staff would like to add a verbal item to the end of item 8.1 for council's consideration. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda of the regular council for Monday, May 25th, 2026 as amended? Councillor Popoff, Councillor Ray. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of Monday, May the 11th, 2026? Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bassett. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. It's carried. Moving right into business this evening, the first item tonight is from Engineering Development Services regarding scheduling a public hearing for an agricultural land reserve ALR exclusion application request at 3202 Edgewood Drive. Can I please have staff provide a brief overview of the report?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Are you able to hear me okay?
We certainly can.
Thanks. So this is regarding a application for ALR exclusion from the property that's known as 3202 Edgewood Drive. This came forward to council from staff to make an application on the owner's behalf to the province. Maybe 2 council meetings ago. We haven't submitted the application. We've started the application. As part of this process, we're required to put out public notice to the city, as well as place a sign notifying the neighborhood on the applicant's property. That has been done, and so now we just need to schedule a public hearing to be hosted on June 8th. And after the public hearing is completed, then we can fully submit our application to the Agricultural Land Commission, and they can undergo their own review. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Connor. Then I got a motion that council schedule a public hearing to be held at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 8th, regarding an application to exclude privately owned land from the Agricultural Land Reserve on behalf of the owners for the property legally described as Lot H, District Lot 36, Kootenay District Plan 2668, located at 3202 Edgewood Drive. Mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question in terms of costs back to the city. Will we be fully recovering all of our city costs, our staffing costs, all the different paperwork costs? I see there's a $750 fee to the city, but is that going to cover everything?
Councillor Popoff through Mayor Price. The first administrative fee was paid for the application when the applicant submitted the initial application, and then this last Thursday they paid their public notification fee, which covers the advertisements that will go out in the newspaper, and then there will be a $750 fee for the application that's made to the province to recuperate the cost to us to submit the application.
Thank you. So this isn't costing the city or the staff costs or anything else. The city's not going to be in arrears for this.
No, we won't have any budgetary impact from this item.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Connor. So then we've got a new item, council approval for Rotary Club of Cranbrook to undertake works for their proposed Rotary Villa Creekside Affordable Seniors Housing. What do we have? Curtis on hand? Mike? Okay, Mike, floor is yours.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Yeah, this item did come up a little bit last minute. As you know, we've been working with the Rotary Club on the disposition and the development of a housing project that they're really excited to work on. Council has gone forward and approved the disposition, but there are still some just some processes that need to take place as far as the land titles and some of those other disposition processes. So what we're doing here is bringing forward the discussion and the option of council to provide permission for the Rotary Club to undertake some of the development related works on the site ahead of that formal land transfer being finalized. With that being noted, that that would still be subject to the standard permitting approvals that would need to be obtained, prior to doing any works such as building permits, development permits, and erosion and sediment control permits. But this is in an effort to move forward with that project a little bit quicker, as they are keen to get going.
Thanks very much, Mike. Can I get a motion to council subject? Can I get a motion that subject to the Rotary Club of Cranbrook obtaining required permits, council grant the Rotary Club of Cranbrook, their agents and contractors authorization to undertake works for the proposed Rotary Villas Creekside Affordable Seniors Housing Development on Lot 1, District Lot 22, Kootenai District Plan, EPP 150489. Mover, please. Councillor Peabody, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm just curious about the timing. Of course, as we have a time-sensitive season for building and those kinds of things, but I'm just wondering when this item came up, and our best practice is to usually have a written report. So just wondering if we have a bit of background on that.
Mike, maybe I can speak to that one. So we received approval for, or the subdivision was registered in Land Title Office at the end of last week. And the applicant had intended on moving forward as quickly as possible, but they notified us today of their intention to, if they could, begin work on June 8th for the civil works. And so as Marnie is just back, we were working on the land title transfer, and there's no way that is going to all take place in time for the permitting. So the idea here is similar to how they have agent authorization for that permitting or applying for permits and whatnot. This would just provide that same level of authority to begin the civil works ahead of the actual land transfer, because we don't even know at the law office how much backlog they have in terms of processing this. So it could push everything ahead. So this is just a formality and to move things along.
Okay, just a vote. So does this place the city at any risk? Like, is there any chance that that paperwork would not proceed, or I just want to assess the risk for the city?
Again, council's already approved the transfer of the property, and Rotary has every intention of moving ahead. So, if they did the work and say they didn't want to go ahead with the rest of the project, there'd be a challenge for them to bill the city. It's the insurance requirements and whatnot that we would still oversee for the contractors, our main concerns.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. And just kind of stemming into what Councillor Ray was wondering, do we afford any others this opportunity? So sometimes, we get accused of being slow or having to wait for next meetings. How do we combat that to show that this isn't necessarily about favoritism or it's our own property? Just looking at the optics of it.
Mayor Price, through Councillor Graham, I think what I would say is that, this is a request from administration based on the fact that this is a nonprofit project. It's not a for-profit construction project, and it's for affordable seniors housing. That is sort of one of our priorities. If it was a for-profit project, a typical construction project, I don't think it would be seen the same way.
And just a supplemental to this, moving this ahead at this speed, does this slow down any of the other projects that are on in the current workload? Like, did this all of a sudden take priority and will it slow other projects down?
Mike, go ahead on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are great questions because we did talk about this at the staff level through to council. And that's why we made sure that we noted that this approval is, or that this motion is still subject to those other permits. And the other permitting application processes will come in line with other permits that we do have coming in. So this isn't allowing them to jump the queue ahead of other projects that have had an application in for a development permit or a building permit ahead of time. This just allows us such that when those permit processes are completed, that this isn't a sticking point to being able to allow them to proceed. So it isn't creating a separate track or allowing anybody to jump the queue as far as what we have with our first come, first serve basis for application reviews.
Thanks for that clarification, Mike. Further? Councillor Papa.
Yeah, thank you. So the Rotary Creekside Village committee that I'm on as well, we were extremely pleased with how fast everything came together. And so this, with this being the case, this will allow us to put shovels in the ground much sooner, even sooner than we anticipated, but we're ready to go as a Rotary Club.
Oh, thank you for that. Further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next item up is from Bylaw Enforcement Services regarding the remedial action requirement for 7 rail cars at 209 Victoria or Van Horn Street South. Can I have staff ready for review the report? Amanda.
Good evening. The remedial action requirement before you for consideration is in regard to the 7 rail cars on city land located behind 209 Van Horn Street South, right behind the Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort. The rail cars are owned by Mr. Gary Southgate. The rail cars have been on city property since prior to 2014. How they came to be on city land cannot be confirmed. Staff had been working extensively with the previous owner of the rail cars, Kootenay Central Rail Service, since 2014 on the removal of the rail cars. Through meetings, email correspondence, compliance agreements, and letters from the city and the city's legal counsel, the city has requested the removal of the rail cars on numerous occasions and provided deadlines for the removal, which was not adhered to. While Mr. Southgate, who is the current owner, purchased the rail cars from Kootenay Central Rail Service in 2023, he was aware of the city's request to remove the rail cars prior to the purchase date through compliance agreements. Since 2023, Mr. Southgate and his representative have continued to express a desire to salvage the trains and remove them from city land, and had suggested that they had a plan to remove the rail cars. However, they were unable to follow through on that plan. Staff have continued frequent contact with Mr. Southgate and his representatives and requested the rail cars be secured and removed, as well as sent him a demand letter from the city's legal counsel to no avail. Staff believe the rail cars are a nuisance, unsightly, and present hazardous conditions. The rail cars have become an ongoing and escalating nuisance within the community. Their deteriorated condition and ease of access has made them an attractive location for unauthorized occupation and illicit activity. Individuals have been observed using the rail cars for shelter, which has led to an accumulation of debris and garbage on and around the rail cars. This creates unsanitary conditions and increases the risk of fire, injury, and environmental contamination. The site of the rail cars has also become a focal point for nuisance behavior. The rail cars are directly located behind the Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort, and as you can see in the photos included in the council package. The Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort has reported the following incidents, which include individuals frequently sleeping in the rail cars. There is evidence of ongoing drug use around the rail cars. Small fires have been observed outside of the rail cars. There has been a theft of power from the hotel through extension cords running from the hotel into the rail cars. There's been ongoing vandalism to the rail cars, such as broken windows. Individuals from the rail cars have been observed trespassing on hotel property. Individuals have been observed using tools such as angle grinders to remove metal components from the rail cars, generating excessive noise and sparks. complaints from hotel guests and staff regarding the unsightliness of the rail cars, and ongoing calls to Cranbrook RCMP as a result of this type of nuisance behavior. The Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort and their legal counsel have requested the city on multiple occasions remove the rail cars. In the last year, Cranbrook RCMP have received several police reports and responded to calls relating to theft of rail track from near the rail cars, which is not connected to the active railway, as well as individuals stealing power from the Rocky Mountain Resort, Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort. My apologies. The nuisance is further compounded by the strain placed on police and bylaw resources. Ongoing complaints have necessitated frequent attendance by both bylaw services and RCMP, diverting limited resources away from emergency response and other enforcement activities in our community. Despite previous efforts by the owner to secure the rail cars, continued breaches indicate that the current measures are insufficient to mitigate that nuisance. The doors and the windows to the rail cars were secured on numerous occasions in 2024 and more recently in March. However, within days, individuals have broken back into the train cars and the nuisance behavior continues. Staff do not believe that securing the rail cars is an effective solution in resolving the nuisance behavior and hazardous conditions. And the presence of repeated unauthorized access has led to safety concerns for both the occupants in the train and the public. And due to the significant deterioration of the rail cars, they are not suitable for habitation and contain many sharp metal edges, unstable flooring, and other structural hazards. The discovery of a firearm within one of the rail cars by RCMP in March further underscores the potential for criminal activity and the heightened risk to public safety. And last week, RCMP Police Dog Services were tracking a suspect nearby and found that suspect on the train. While clearing the inside of the rail car, the police dog cut its paw on broken glass, causing the police dog officer to have to stop and tend to the police dog momentarily. And the suspect shortly after emerged with a weapon. So the rail cars certainly provide an easy place for illegal activity and for individuals to hide, which created additional safety risks for Cranbrook RCMP officers inside the train. And calls continue frequently to RCMP. As late as last evening, RCMP attended and found individuals on the train. The placement of the derelict rail cars directly behind the Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort significantly amplifies their negative visual impact. Hotels, including the Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort, serve as key commercial and tourism-oriented properties, and their appearance contributes directly to visitor impressions in the broader perspective of the community. And the presence of these deteriorated rail cars, characterized by rust, graffiti, broken windows, and structural damage, as well as the accumulation of debris around the cars, creates a stark contrast with the expectations of a clean and welcoming environment. From the vantage point within guest rooms at the Prestige Rocky Mountain Resort, as well as the parking areas and adjacent public spaces, the rail cars are highly visible and detract from the overall aesthetic of the site. And this visual blight is particularly problematic given the transient nature of hotel clientele, where first impression is very important. The proximity to the rail cars has also led hotel guests to perceive the area as neglected, unsafe, and potentially impacting the reputation of the hotel and surrounding businesses, as well as our community. In addition to the accumulation of debris and evidence of ongoing occupancy and repeated damage to the boarding material used to close up the train, has contributed to a perception of disorder and lack of control over the site. And this undermines community standards and is inconsistent with municipal objectives for economic viability, tourism appeal, and neighborhood livability. So given the prominent location and deteriorated condition, the rail cars represent a highly visible and ongoing unsightly condition that negatively impacts both the immediate property and broader streetscape. And overall, the negative condition of the rail cars negatively impact the surrounding area due to their unsightliness. I did invite Mr. Southgate to attend this meeting, however, he declined. A representative of Mr. Southgate did inform me last week that they're working on a plan to remove the rail cars, which could happen as soon as in the next 4 weeks. However, staff are not confident that Mr. Southgate will be able to follow through on this plan, as plans have been presented to the city in the past and have not been adhered to. In terms of options for council, Should council adopt the remedial action resolution, the city has the option of removing the rail cars if Mr. Southgate does not adhere to the 60-day timeline for the removal of the rail cars. The rail cars are not certified to operate on an active rail track, and so due to their size and weight and the close distance to the active rail line, the removal is complicated and may be costly. We did receive one quote for removal, which came in at $350,000. With that said, if this resolution is adopted, staff will explore all cost-effective solutions such as recycling materials or perhaps looking for other buyers of the cars if Mr. Southgate is not able to adhere to that timeline. If council approves the resolution, the city could also choose to seek a court order requiring the owner to remove the rail cars, or council could simply choose to forego the remedial action resolution and choose to seek compliance through court order. Although the remedial action resolution is the recommended option by staff. Thank you. That concludes the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for a detailed report. Amanda, I'll go through the motion here and see if we have any questions. Can I get a motion that council approve a remedial action resolution against Gary Southgate for removal of 7 rail cars parked on city-owned land, but behind 209 Van Horn Street, South Cranbrook, PID 009-421-131, legally described as Lot 1, District Lot 30, Kootenay District Plan 10269, whereas Section 72 to 74 of the Community Charter 2003 authorized council for the city of Cranbrook to impose a remedial action requirement on the owner of a matter or thing which is declared a nuisance and or council considers is it in or creates an unsafe condition. And whereas 7 rail cars are located on the following property in Cranbrook, PID 009-421-131, Lot 1, District Lot 30, Kootenay District Plan 10269, except parts included plans 13894, 14148, 15928, and NEP 62056. And whereas the 7 rail cars are owned by Gary Southgate, and whereas council for the city has received and reviewed the staff report dated May 25th, 2026 in relation to the property, now therefore be it resolved that number 1, that based on the information contained in the report pursuant to Section 74 of the Community Charter, the following 7 rail cars on the property are hereby declared to be a nuisance. University Club car bearing number 652, Cafe Lounge car bearing number 758, Day-Nighter car bearing 5732, Day-Nighter car bearing number 5746, Day-Nighter car bearing number 5736, Day-Nighter car bearing number 5752, baggage car bearing number 9665. And number 2, that based on the information contained in the report pursuant to Section 73 of the Community Charter, council considers that the rail cars on the property create an unsafe condition. 3, that pursuant to Section 72 of the Community Charter, the owner is hereby required to A, secure all entry points on the rail cars within 30 days after notice of this resolution is given to the owner, and B, remove the rail cars from the property within 60 days after notice of this resolution is given to the owner. Number 4, that if the remedial action requirements are not completed within the deadline set out in paragraph 3 of this resolution, the city and its agents, contractors, or employees may, pursuant to Section 17 of the Community Charter, undertake any and all actions necessary to fulfill the remedial action requirement at the expense of the owner. And such actions may include disposing of the rail cars in a landfill. And number 5, that the city may recover from the owner all of the city's costs incurred by fulfilling the remedial action requirement by way of selling the rail cars pursuant to sections 258 and 259 of the community charter. Motion, please. Pardon me, moved by Councillor Statsky. Councillor Ray. Discussion. Councillor Statsky.
A sense of deja vu.
boy.
This project has been on the books since at least 2014, and it'll be a great day when they're finally gone. So thank you for pursuing it.
Councillor Ray, Councillor Papa.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious, has the Cranbrook Archives Museum and Landmark Society, Kamal, have they had any input on this? Do they see any historical value if in the end we become the owners? Not necessarily. I could see Councillor Popoff waving his hand, so I'll speak more about what I'm referring to. I'm just wondering if they might want to recover some materials from the cars. I just wanted to check if they've had any involvement. I'm not suggesting they'd want to keep the whole cars, but if they want to take some chairs or items from the cars.
Mayor Price, through to Councillor Ray, that's a great question. We did ask if they were interested in the rail cars as a whole, and the answer was no. However, we have not yet offered pieces of the car, and we wouldn't be able to do so unless or until the remedial action resolution was authorized and the 60 days had passed.
Councillor Papa.
Well, thank you. Just some feedback on this. Good questions. Camel has, over the years as well, considered the disposition of these train pieces and what, if any, value would come back to Camel. And the answer is no.
Thank you. Back to Councillor Statsky.
I made sure that the chair of the board knows about the resolution tonight. Curious though, after this, we have city land with railway ties on them. I don't know at what point we might try and figure out what to do with that piece of land, say, Ferto, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the long run.
Thank you. Further, Councillor Papa.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's been an eyesore for a long time, definitely a hazard. One of the challenges, and if it defaults to the city to do the disposition of these cars, it's going to be at a very high price tag. And you mentioned 350,000, it might exceed that, might double that. So how do we recuperate that money from the current owner?
Mayor Price, through to Councillor Popoff. Typically in a remedial action resolution, when authorized, it's typically on land. It's unique that this is rail cars and not land. And so when the fees for removal or cleanup are unpaid, it would be added to property taxes and collected through that method or other means. In this case, of course, we don't have the ability because it is city land. So we have had those discussions with the city's legal counsel. And we did explore all options that would be the most cost effective and provide the ability for the municipality to recoup costs. So the first step to that would be the remedial action resolution. And then if it's not adhered to, the second step in terms of recovering cost would likely be through court action.
Thank you very much. Further, council? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks very much. That's a lot of work. And for the right, Councillor Statsky had mentioned, this has been going on for years and years, and it'd sure be nice to see the day it's cleaned up. So thank you so much. Next item is from Finance regarding loan authorization bylaw. That's the Shadow Mountain Sanitary Sewer Construction Local Area Service. Number 4095, 2022, and Securian MFA financing. Charlotte's on hand to give us a report.
Thank you, Mayor Price. So at the regular council meeting in November of 2022, council received the Shadow Mountain Local Area Service Petition Certificate of Sufficiency. They adopted the Shadow Mountain Sanitary Sewer Construction Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw number 4094, 2022, and directed staff to forward the loan authorization bylaw Shadow Mountain Sanitary Sewer Construction Local Area Service, number 4095, 2022, to the Inspector of Municipalities for approval. The city received approval from the Inspector the Inspector of Municipality on January 10, 2023. In April of 2023, Council adopted the temporary borrowing bylaw, Shadow Mountain Sanitary Sewer Construction Local Area Service, number 4113, in 2023 as temporary borrowing was necessary to fund the local area service works during construction. The Shadow Mountain Sanitary Sewer construction is now complete, and it is necessary for Council to approve a municipal security issuing resolution in order to proceed with long-term borrowing. The 2023 Shadow Mountain Sanitary Sewer construction budget was $9,120,300. The total spent to complete the project, including estimated interim finance charges to the end of September 2026, and the 1% MFA debt reserve is $8,119,430. Once the municipal security issuing resolution is approved by Council, it will be forwarded to the regional district for them to draft a security issuing bylaw to participate in MFA's fall borrowing issue. We anticipate the city will receive the debt proceeds net of temporary borrowing balance of $6,800,000 in late September. So I know that was a lot, but it's just taken a long time to get here. So I thought it was helpful to go through that.
Much appreciated, Charlotte. Thank you. Can I get a motion to council approve borrowing from the Municipal Finance Authority of British Columbia as part of the 2026 fall borrowing session, $8,119,438 as authorized through loan authorization bylaw, Shadow Mountain Sanitary Sewer Construction Local Area Service, number 4095, 2022, and that the Regional District of East Kootenay be requested to consent to our borrowing over a 30-year term and include the borrowing in their security issuing bylaw. Councillor Ray, Councillor Bissett. Further, yes.
Pardon me, Council. I was supposed to have made Council aware that there was an error in the resolution. The mayor read it correctly. In the writing part of the resolution that cites the number, we had $8,190,000. It is $8,119,000. So the mayor did read the resolution correctly, and I was supposed to have highlighted that. My apologies.
Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. So CFO Osborne, it looks like this is a good news story. The original budget was 9.1 million, and the actual budget was, or expenses were 8.1 million. So that results in a decrease in the estimated debt servicing charges. So does that benefit then filter to the city, or does it filter down to the local area service folks who are paying? How does that work?
Councillor Ray, through the mayor, it will benefit the participants in the local area service. So yeah, it's the city is not paying any portion of this debt issue, so it will all benefit the residents.
That, and I think I just want to highlight that because I think that's a good news story for those residents. This has been a long and winding road for them. So I think that's a very good news story.
Thank you. Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. I also have a question about the LAS. As time goes on and more development happens out in the Shadow Mountain area, does the payment that each household pays towards LAS, does that decrease? Or do we just pay a bigger chunk of the LAS off and hopefully pay down the loan sooner?
Councillor Peabody, through Mayor Price, it is, and we haven't worked out the 100% the logistics, but it is anticipated that every year there will be adjustments based on the number of subdivisions that have happened. I'm not exactly sure how that will roll out, but there will be recalculations required, I expect, through the life of the loan.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Good information, Charlotte. Thank you. Further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Charlotte. Great work. That was a great project. The final item, new business tonight is from the CEO's office regarding minister meeting items for the UBCM. Mark?
All right, thanks, Mayor Price. So actually, if council doesn't mind, if I wouldn't mind just going back to the Councillor Graham's question. Just there's an important clarification I'd like to make. So my response is based on the disposal of city land. So I think your question might have been more broad than that. What I was answering was a question on if this company is being treated any differently in terms of gaining agent authorization ahead of the transfer of land, specific to a transfer of land in the rare case where the city is actually disposing of a property. So in this case, we don't dispose of a lot of land, but if in case we sold a lot to a for-profit business, we would expect them to go through the proper steps. This is a not-for-profit, and that's why, as staff, we've recommended jumping ahead to meet a council objective of low-income seniors housing. This is specific to the rare instance of disposal of city land that council would be asked to provide that agent authorization. If your question was more broad about development in general, and in terms of how other applicants come to the development services asking for that, agent authorization by a landowner to have someone else represent them is quite common and happens all the time. So that's something that's a benefit that's afforded to anybody in the regular process. So I just wanted to make that clear. I was answering specific just to those rare instances when we're disposing of city-owned property. Anyways, back to the UBCM. So it is getting to that time where we need to figure out what minister meetings council would like to have set up. I have to have everything in before June 24th in order to apply for the various minister meetings. There is a format to that. So I'd just like to have the council conversation around what minister meetings for what items, and then I've just shared out sort of what I need to input as we do every year. And I'll just maybe start off with just saying, there is a lot of discussion around various items, and if we could just ensure we remain focused on municipal items pertinent to the city of Cranbrook, because there's a lot of groups that would want things brought to the minister that would potentially be outside of, I guess, sticking to our knitting, so to speak. So I'll just leave you with that. So Mayor Price, if you want to lead the discussion. We've had some items come in through email, and I just leave it for council to raise them tonight. And I'll then send out another email to all of council with what I think I've heard, and we'll finalize the list at the next meeting.
You want to finalize it tonight?
Not tonight, no.
Oh, okay.
Tonight I'll just be to gather those items, have some discussion, and then I'll send another list out, and then we'll finalize it in the next meeting, the first meeting in June.
Okay. Yeah, I think certainly going forward, we have seen a few recommendations coming in over the next week. Maybe we'll do a cutoff within the next week. Get anything we need into Mark. Any further recommendations into Mark, and then we can approve it at the next meeting of council.
And Mayor Price, if we could have some discussion, there is quite a few items floating around now. I don't know if we want to talk about each of those tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah. So around the table, maybe thoughts from different councils. Maybe start with Councillor Graham. Any thoughts?
The only one there's been good discussions via the emails, and I know others will bring it up, but one that I thought might be interesting would be to have a discussion with the Ministry of Education around Amy Woodland School, what's happening there. It's a spot in our community also of land use. What's the plan? I know that the school boards do have a bit of autonomy there, but they are overseen by the Ministry of Education, so it might be a conversation worth having.
Thank you. Councillor Pop, anything?
Yes, there's been some really good suggestions so far.
Thank you. Councillor Ray?
I think we've got a few items that we need to continue to work on, and I'll leave it to Councillor Stetsky to speak more in detail regarding the youth detox treatment resources. I think continuing to follow up on the increase in the provincial funding grant for the Cranbrook Public Library, as we did last year. We've already had some communication with the province, giving them our feedback about our BC Builds project, and that funding was, I think the best light to put on it would be that it's been put on hold, but I think we have an opportunity to advocate on the importance of our BC Builds project as a small city. The Cranbrook Food Bank has put forward an item around advocacy to improve provincial coordination and support regarding food security. And as Councillor Blissett has noted in our Ready grant applications, the applications regarding food, the number of grants have increased and the size of asks have increased related to food. So I do think that's a symptom, a sign that food security is an issue. And then the Cranbrook Chamber of Commerce has suggested a potential advocacy topic around crime prevention with a few subpoints on that.
Thank you. Nothing from Council. Council Peabody.
Just going off of what Councillor Graham was just saying, I think if we discuss the Amy Woodland property, maybe the Muriel Baxter property too.
Councillor Stetsky.
The only addition, this would take some discussion with ACCM, but the solar project that ACCM had proposed that was turned down by Hydro, if they're interested in us pursuing that, that's potentially a great project for the area and for the environment. So but we should check with them and see whether it's something they would like us to pursue and perhaps to pursue jointly.
Yeah. And certainly from my perspective, meeting with the housing minister regarding BC Builds, when something goes on hold, typically with that level of government, it's gone. It's not on hold. If it's on hold, certainly I think consideration should be given to the communities that are meeting the projections of housing needs assessment. Cranbrook's doing very well, so we shouldn't be penalized, or funding should be given to the communities that are making the effort. Secondly, I think when we're talking about land use, possibly Mark, we've talked about it a couple of times. Maybe how we go out acquiring provincial land for industrial development, Cranbrook. Further? Okay, go ahead, Mark.
So what I'll do then is I'll compile this and I'll get an email out to all of council and then put it back on the next agenda for the next meeting just to confirm and get that final direction. The only one I would like to discuss, and if anything else comes up, just email me too, and then I'll have this list and we'll get the items nailed down so that gives us a couple weeks to finalize it, clean it up, and get it entered. Councillor Stetsky, you raised the one item about the solar farm project, and that wouldn't be a minister meeting. There's a specific meeting with BC Hydro senior executive. And so I just, on that one, because it is a relationship between Occam and the city, and they have applied in the past, and there's a number of sort of internal things between Hydro and Occam there. Prior to me contacting Occam to make the ask, I just wouldn't mind council direction on if I should do that or not, rather than just a suggestion and I go ahead and do that. So I'd be more comfortable if council provided me that direction to communicate with Occam on that point versus me going off and doing that.
Thanks, Mark. Anything further, council? No? Okay, that brings us now to Mayor and Council's reports and inquiries. Let's start with Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you. Number of great events over the last couple of weeks. ACCM hosted a community celebration with a great dinner. And I'd like to thank Bonnie Harvey for the invitation. And it was a really interesting look at the various accomplishments that the Ktunaxa have achieved over the last year. And the fact that they celebrate it and their staff is a great thing. So I was on May 15th. On May 16th, I had the pleasure of representing Cranbrook in the Blossom Parade in Creston. At the lunch afterwards, hosted by the mayor, I happened to be sitting with their Youth Citizen of the Year. So in addition to the Citizen of the Year, they nominate and celebrate a Youth Citizen of the Year. And I thought that was a really great idea that we might want to, a future council might want to consider for Cranbrook or the Chamber or whoever's looking after that. May 20th had the pleasure of attending the play Death Trap at the studio stage door. Excellent acting and a number of plot twists throughout the play. So I'd encourage everyone that hasn't got their tickets yet to please do before it runs out. May 21st was the meeting on Habitat for Humanity. It's great to see that the duplex is going forward and that they actually hope to have the building completed by fall, potentially, using the Kolesnikov pre-built approach to put it together. So the units come to Cranbrook, they put them up on site, and it means that if they do start in the next month or so, they expect they can open it by the fall, which will be a great thing for the citizens and also a great example of how quickly you can build things using that modular approach. May 22nd and 23rd, Fisher Peak Performing Arts Society sponsored youth musician performances at Rotary Park, both on Friday night and on Saturday afternoon and evening. And I really want to thank them for providing that opportunity for musicians from Cranbrook and area to get up on stage and perform. It was a really interesting mix of musical types, I guess, right from hard rock. I thought I was back in the 60s and 70s for a while, through to almost ballad style. So great job by Fisher Peak to be able to showcase the youth.
Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to compliment Heather Gemmell for she obtained some funding from BC Hydro, which is typically goes to trees, but she's able to convince them to allow to use that funding for shrubs in her downtown planters. So all the downtown planters on Baker Street now have 3 or 4 shrubs planted in there. I know she was hoping that we could team up with the crew that's going around to water the planters to see if they can water the shrubs too. I don't know if that's possible. Then just a thought I had, I know we're using our downtown reserve fund for the planters. Would we be able to use that reserve fund for other plants downtown too, if it counts towards beautification?
Mayor Price through to Councillor Peabody. I think that would be the council direction we'd look for specifically for an expenditure of funds. It's not currently in the budget. So,
Okay.
So that would be something, if an item does come up and come forward, to direct it through staff, and we'd bring that back to council, because it's, as staff, we wouldn't take the liberty to just expend those funds to something that doesn't.
Fair, but if there's a worthy project that comes forward, maybe possibly from staff, there may be funding available for it. That's not
Potentially,
necessarily tax dollars.
Yeah, potentially if it'll fit under that funding envelope and council approves it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. With regard to beautification, it's come up I saw on Facebook a few people commenting on weeds around town. And I was wondering about sort of the responsibility of city staff. Is Public Works responsible for weeds popping up in asphalt in different places in town, or we just have a certain zone, or how does that work?
Mayor Price through to Councillor Bissett. So we do have some budget for invasive weeds, but weed control in general, it just depends on the site. So we do try to manage weeds, where they're unsightly, but invasive weeds is another matter. And we do have a set budget, and once it's expended, it's expended. And that's what we've seen lately is that there is more weeds than budget in the last few years.
Yes, so maybe even if individual landowners or business owners could, I don't know, take a few minutes and look after the area around their properties, that would certainly help the city. And along with that, Councillor Ray was mentioning about how, you know, a number of issues on food. And I'm involved with a group there where we have the plant-based potlucks once a month. It's sponsored by WildSite. And the reason it's sponsored by, they fund for the room where it is, beside the Manual Training Center beside the library. And the reason they do that is because there's such a huge environmental impact from eating plant-based, at least part of the time. And so they're encouraging people to try that. And it certainly is economical as well, because we heard often, as you say, during the Ready grants about the number of meals being served to people and how expensive these are. And there are certainly economical, healthy alternatives and tasty too. That's part of the idea behind the potlucks, is to show, actually it tastes good. This is not like eating sawdust or just plain leaves, right? So anyways, I encourage people to come out because it is open to everyone, and we get new people every month, and it's a great thing. So I just throw that out for information. It is, the next one will be, I think, the 13th of June at the Manual Training Center. So I'll bring it up again closer to that time.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to some of the items that have already been mentioned, I also attended the May 14th open house for Arch Design Cabinetry. So they did their sort of grand opening for their new location on the Strip, and beautiful model kitchens there. So just want to say congratulations to Arch Design for their new location. On May 20th, I attended the Chamber lunch, and the Columbia Basin Trust was the presenter around their investment program. So thank you to the Chamber for another great event. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things in our community. So if you're on Facebook and you want to follow something fun, the Kootenay East Soccer Association is very busy, and Cranbrook's doing lots of winning. So, and having lots of fun and getting good exercise. But yeah, congratulations to all the teams with the Kootenay Soccer Association. They're having a great season. And thanks to all the volunteers who make that possible. This past weekend, there was the final performance for the East Kootenay Performing Arts Festival at the Key City Theatre. So once again, congratulations to all the kids and youth and adults involved in that. And this weekend, there's a choral festival here in Cranbrook as well. So pretty amazing to see all the talent in our community.
Councillor Papa.
Thank you. Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. I also attended for a bit the youth performances there over at Rotary Park, and yeah, it was a eclectic mix of metal when I was there. So yeah, it was neat to see though. Nice to see young up and coming musicians have an opportunity to perform.
And I just have one thing to make the community aware of. June 13th, Saturday, June 13th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Our local representatives will be holding a information session and a day for people to come out and get a better understanding. There will be information, giveaways, and treats. Saturday, June 13th at the gazebo in Rotary Park, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. World Elder Abuse Awareness Day focuses our attention on the need for all of us to take responsibility in preventing elder abuse. It is observed annually. The day unites communities, organizations, and nations in promoting older adults' rights within, a right to live with dignity, security, and the opportunity to contribute to communities. I think that's very well put. I just think it's a really sad time that, that we have to, focus on these types of things, but it's one of the realities of today's world, and certainly it'd be nice to see everybody get out and support the initiative. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Whoop.
Continue the closed meeting.
Sorry.
Could we recess the regular meeting to finish the closed meeting?
Oh, pardon me. Yes, we will. Yes, yes. We'll recess this meeting, go back into close.